Hi again, welcome to part two. I've been talking about, just kind of sharing some memories about my mom. And I wanted to mention Greg too. He was the neatest guy. Um, Man, I wish I had been able to keep in touch with Greg's family over the years. It's one of my biggest regrets is that after my mom and Greg were killed and after the memorial services, I was kind of swept away from Santa Barbara, and I moved back to my dad's house, and I never really got to say proper goodbyes to a lot of people, and I didn't get to keep in touch with a lot of people, and so I've never known what became of Greg's family, his brothers, his parents, his nephew. I think about them all the time, and I wonder how they're doing. I know it had to have been a really hard journey, just like it was for me. And I would so much love to reconnect. So Sanchez family, if you're out there and you get a glimpse of this, I hope that you'll get in touch, because there's something so healing about what I'm doing, and I really pray for that healing for you as well. Anyway, a little bit of my memories of Greg. Greg was just a blast to be around. He was so much fun. And again, I've talked about what a considerate person my mom was, and Greg was the same way. He was very, very selfless, very outgoing, very friendly. My mom and Greg, most of my memories of them, they all have music in there in one way or another. We were always listening to music. Music was playing constantly. And back then we had record albums, but Greg, he didn't just have a stereo with a record player. He had the component stereo system that was popular at the time. And so just to give you guys an idea, you'd set up these shelves in your house, and you'd have the receiver, and you'd have the mixer, and you'd have the reel-to-reel tape deck, and or an 8-track deck or a cassette deck, and then you'd have your turntable, and you'd have your speakers, and it would take up the whole wall. Greg had a great system like that. I think he had one bedroom of his apartment that was just his stereo room. And my gosh, he was just he had great taste in music. Mom and Greg both had really great taste in music. From an early age, I remember Mom liked, John Denver and Jim Croce and Seals and Crofts and Chicago. Oh my gosh, Chicago! Anytime I hear a Chicago song, I can't help but think of my mom and Greg. That kind of music, Firefall and the Little River Band, and they just had really, really. The soundtrack of our lives is it just makes my heart happy. Just makes my heart happy. A little more about Greg. My mom and Greg both drove sports cars, which I don't know if anybody finds that interesting, but I do. Mom's car was a 1979 model Datsun 280Z, and it was beautiful. That kind of sparkly chocolate brown color with a beige interior, and it was so sleek and classy looking, and it was perfect for her. And then Greg drove a Camaro, and I wouldn't venture to know the year of Greg's Camaro, but it was white, and it had the big fat black stripes that started at the grill and went all the way back to the windshield and then back across the hood to the tail. So Greg's car was super neat. It was, like I said, white with those big fat black stripes, and I think the interior was blue. That doesn't sound right. Anyway, so they both drove those sports cars. But then Greg also had a 1957 Chevy station wagon, and it was dark blue. Golly. It just had a neat look about it. And he restored that. He was part of a club in Santa Barbara. They had I think they just called it the 55, 56, 57 Chevy Club. And he was part of that. So he would get together with those guys. And I don't know what they did, if they went out to eat or if they barbecued or if they just worked on their cars or talked about their cars. I don't know what they did. But that was a really neat, kind of a piece of Greg's life that that now I look back at and I think, that was really interesting. I wonder what happened to that car, to his Camaro too. They're beautiful vehicles. Anyway, I just, the heartbreaking part about all of this is the potential for life that was stolen from Cheri and Greg, and from all of the other people who were stolen from us by this killer. I just can't imagine how much better my life would be if my mom and Greg were still around. Now I've got children and grandchildren, and my mom would be a great grandma right now if she was still around. And I wouldn't have had to learn so much the hard way if she had been around. And I try not to live life with regrets, but man, I just wish I had my mom. I wish I had my mom. So anyway, I'm realizing my transitions glasses have gotten my eyes really super dark. So, okay, so there's my eyes if y'all are wondering what I look like. It's early morning. I'm here on my front porch. Yeah, I need to dust my windowsills. Shame on me. I'll do a little spin around so y'all can see my neighborhood. I've been sitting on my porch drinking my coffee, and I live in the neatest little neighborhood with trees and dogs barking and birds chirping, and there's my flagpole that my wonderful son recently installed for me that I just love. But anyway, and of course the front of my house. Anyway, I'm gonna have a seat here for a second. It'll be time for me to start getting ready for church here in a little while, but I wanted to go ahead and get videos posted just to kind of give you guys a glimpse into who Cheri and Greg were. And I hope that you get some value in this. I hope I haven't bored you all to death, but it's not enough to just seek justice. It's important to remember who people were. And anyway, I hope y'all have a great day. Thank you for being with me on this journey. I love y'all very much. Take care.